Hey guys, today I'm with David Whittleton, who's an LGBT life and leadership coach. How are you today, David?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing well, thank you. David is in North Carolina.
Yep, in the Raleigh-Durham Triangle area.
Awesome. So, David, you do LGBT leadership coaching. Tell us a little bit about your clients and why they come to you.
So I work mainly with LGBT life or leaders and professionals, and I grew up in rural area, so I understand, what it was like for me to grow up in that environment being different. And I worked in corporate America for 18 years, and that's where I really had my coming out kind of process of being myself at work and with my employees. I was a director, and so I was in a leadership role there, and it just got to a point where I needed to be my authentic self because I was always hiding part of me. And it just made a world of difference. And so I decided I needed to serve, or I wanted to serve that community because in doing some research, 2 out of 5 LGBT workers have reported feeling bullied in the workplace. And 56% of those bullied are bullied on a repeated basis. So it's there, it's prevalent. And those, just that statistic alone, it kind of surprised me to know that even in today's work environment and in society, that many people are being bullied and harassed because of who they are. So my mission is to be of support and help those that want to, maybe be more authentic in the workplace. It doesn't mean they have to be, totally out if they don't want to or they don't feel comfortable, but how they handle that and make sure that they're comfortable with that and they would know what to do if they come across that situation where they might be outed for some reason too.
Okay, so interesting. So when you say bullied in the workplace, can you describe a little more about that? Like what exactly is going on?
Well, so bullied, there's more than just being beat up, obviously. A lot of it could be, name calling. People walk by and, make snide comments, faggot, homo, believe it or not, that still happens. There's a big problem in the transgender community today of them being harassed, and some of that could be sexual harassment and bullying, just based on not understanding where they are in their transition, or it could very well just be that it's flat out harassment. So it could be anything from subtle to overt. It could be. I've not really heard of anybody being physically beat up, but it could be writing something about somebody on the bathroom wall.
Right.
That stuff
Anything
is
like
still,
yeah.
It's like high school, but in the workplace, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, and I think you made a good point. Like I bet a lot of these bullying forms are not like outwardly aggressive, but just like small, subtle, like microaggressions.
Exactly.
Right, which really can be just as bad as like a act of like actual aggression.
Right.
And I'm sure that can build up to be very, very frustrating to be around in the workplace.
Exactly. And if you take that and add it to what the individual may be going through, accepting who they are. I know for a while, in my earlier career, I didn't accept who I was. I tried to, something's wrong with me or fix it. So sometimes they struggle with who they are, the whole coming out process, being accepted. there's just a whole bunch of other things that come in play with that just really can be very stressful and detrimental to
Yeah.
the individual.
Yeah, no, I bet. And it sounds like a whole set of challenges that on top of the work itself, the LGBT community has to face that no one else really has to go through and we kind of take for granted.
Right.
Yeah, and that sounds really difficult. Um, what exactly, like your clients, are they already out, or they're trying to come out? And what's the relationship between one who is already out? Like do they get better feedback in the workplace, or do they just also get bullied?
So it could be both. It If they're out, if they're out, and they may not be calling or needing coaching around that whole experience. It could be, they have how to be a better leader, or hey, I've got this situation. So it's not all just about around them being out or going through transition. It could be, professional areas as well. Folks that aren't out, a lot of the time it's been more of how do I handle it? Who do I come out to? Some people, it's easier to just make a big announcement.
Uh-huh.
Other people, they're more comfortable. My experience, I kind of came out gradually. The first person I came out to was my director at the time when I was a senior manager, and it was the comfort level, building the comfort level of you being able to feel that you can come out to your boss, and then really I kind of worked with her to kind of talk about what that meant to me and how I wanted to approach it with my coworkers. She had a group of managers, so then obviously the next step would be, some of them already knew me and knew who I really was. Others did not. So it can be, a variety of ways. Like I said, I had someone that just made an announcement one day at an employee's staff meeting. I personally couldn't have done that, but
Yeah. I feel like I
and
wouldn't be able to do that. That sounds really stressful.
now today, I mean, it has been obviously a process, but I mean, I just tell everybody, right off the bat, I'm an LGBT life and leadership coach. It just kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
But that wasn't always the case. So it's just helping them be comfortable in how they deal with that. And, sometimes it's not even related to work. Maybe they've not come out to their parents, or they've not come out to their family. It's across the board.
Okay. Yeah. And I imagine coaching can be really helpful in terms of like just knowing what to say, who to go to, and all that. And
Right.
it's really great that you had a supportive workplace. Like you approached your supervisor or whoever it was, and she seemed responsive to it. Do you think that most workplaces will have this reaction? And how do you know where, if your work environment is just toxic and you shouldn't be there, versus like you have to do some work?
Well, I think it's exactly that. You've got to be able to gauge what's the right decision for you. I was lucky. I mean, I worked for a big corporation, but the organization that I worked in within it, we were like a self-contained unit. So we had our own, leadership, and the employees there had all been in the leadership team. We were all together. Like I was in the same organization for 16 years, and very little turnover. So, and within my organization, it was very easy for me, and I've been very comfortable. overall, if I had to go to corporate headquarters, no, there's no way that would have been way too stressful for me. So, and those are, I think, some of the things that, individuals need to look at. And sometimes they do need some coaching on how can they, what to look for, how to tell. And it could be that they just don't even start at the top. Maybe they just, want to tell their a select group. And it's all about building the trust and the respect for each other, even in that environment of who to tell, who not to tell. Some organizations, if it's easier to just not be out, then it's more in helping them to make sure they're comfortable with that, and helping them to find other outlets, maybe where they have to raise their issues or their concerns, and how to deal with it. Some people are fine. They don't want to be out at work. They don't need to be out at work. And, I think a lot of it is just in where you are personally. Self.
That makes a lot of sense. And what was before you were out at work, what was that like? And then how did that change after you came out?
So, yeah, it ran quite the gamut. My very first job in corporate America was at a bank. And I worked for my supervisor and my manager. They were both very homophobic. And they would make comments. And I was not out then, but it was like, oh, I can't, I have to be really careful. So it made me uncomfortable because I think they suspected, but they just kind of looked the other way. I was a good employee, but I knew that I couldn't be myself in that group. So I quickly went to, look to find another way to get out of that
right
group I was in and move somewhere else. Then when I started my second round, my husband actually worked with the same company I did. And we worked in the same building. We drove separately to work. We didn't talk to each other at work. We worked at separate ends of the building. So even if we saw each other in the cafeteria, we didn't know each other. So it was, that was kind of, it was like, oof. And it was more for him because he had been there a lot longer than I had. So, and I respected that. And, over time that changed, and it became easier. I had a really tight-knit group of friends in the organization I worked in at that point. And so, that was just a few people, like maybe 3 or 4 that I confided in, and some of them even knew him. And they were like, oh, really? So it was only after I got his permission to tell him. Yes, and so it's just it was very uneasy for me to not be able to say who I was doing things with. And like when I went on, vacation, or we went on vacation, I couldn't say who I was going with.
Right.
And then, the last few years I was just, I was pretty much out to everybody. And, my team respected me. But again, it was because of the relationship we had built over the years that made it a lot easier.
Did you see the movie Love, Simon?
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah, me too. That was one of my favorite movies of 2018. So yes. I really, really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah.
But just for anyone watching who hasn't seen it, it's like a movie about like a high school senior he's like a normal kid, but he has a secret. This is how he describes himself. He's got one big secret. He's normal, but he's got one big secret. He's gay, and nobody knows it. And it's just a movie about him like coming to terms with that and coming out. And it's a really, really good movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
Same here. How would you define LGBT leader? Because I know you say you're LGBT leadership coach. You help LGBTs become leaders. So I just want to know what it means to be an LGBT leader.
So that's a good question, one that I've actually been asked, because I have a meetup group that for LGBT leaders and professionals, and they ask the same question. And to me, there is no difference. A leader is a leader. It's more in dealing with the differences of what someone that's LGBT may be going through, and how they may need to handle situations a little differently. And that kind of sounds weird, but it's back to, sometimes you have to make sure you're not in a position where, it's much more easier to be maybe caught in a compromising position, even though there's nothing going on, you just have to, maybe how you help someone else. Especially from a leader perspective, lots of times you could be a mentor for somebody that may not be, totally out. So, so from those perspectives, I think there's a lot of different ways that an LGBT leader can need a little bit of help or, education on what they should do and how they can be the best. It's all about being the best you can be and being your authentic self. That's really what my goal is for anybody I work with.
Okay, nice. And can you go a little deeper into what it means to be your authentic self?
Sure. So to be your authentic self is more like, for me in the workplace or even here, just to be who you are, to accept who you are. So me as as a gay male in his 50s, I don't want to admit that, but in his 50s, I've been with my husband for 28 years, but to be comfortable with that and not to be afraid of telling somebody else. It's also, in being open in your relationships with everybody. It's really in how I think you just live your life. And again, even if you choose to not be out in the workplace, you can still live your authentic self as long as you and you've made that decision and you've got ways to to handle it. It's more where you've got the uncertainty, or you may think you're living two lives. So it's just more about being authentic to you, self-love, self-care, and being present to those around you without any barriers.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that definition. So if someone thinks that, if it sounds like someone's a good fit and they want to work with you, how can they get in touch?
So the best way is on my website, which is www.whittletonconsulting.com. That's WHITTLETON consulting, CONSULTING.com.
I'll include a link. There to make it easy.
And there's a button on just about every page to you can schedule a time to call. You can also send me a message. I'm also on LinkedIn under David Whittleton, and you can find me on there as well, and on Facebook.
Okay, awesome. I'll include all of those links for sure. And
Okay.
before we get going, is there any other tips or action steps you want to leave with us, just to wrap everything up?
I think mainly if you know somebody that might be a good fit for even just chatting with me. I do coffee chats as well, and just to have them reach out to me or refer us. The other thing is don't be afraid. There's always somebody out there that's willing to help. And willing to coach, and that I'm one of them. And just be yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your insights and stories with us today. I look forward to keeping in touch.